Fallout 3 has a memorable cast of characters, from Three Dog to a vault full of Garys, but there has always been a single character that stood out to me when I played this game as a child. Butch DeLoria. Can You Beat Fallout 3 is Butch DeLoria. And now what I mean by this is, can I make a character that resembles Butch, and can I beat the game wearing only a Tunnel Snake's jacket and using a switchblade? I woke up from my birth, only to discover that my father was Liam Neeson, and he would eventually find me and possibly kill me. After I made myself look as much like Butch as I could, which was practically just the hair, I'm not very good at character creation, I watched my mother die and grew up almost instantaneously. My father left me alone in my kennel like the dog I am, and I escaped and assigned my special points. I maxed out strength and intelligence for the best damage and easier leveling. I was then teleported again, only this time I was a child instead of an infant. I was given a Pip-Boy, and then I saw him. My Lord and Savior, Butch DeLoria. I tried talking to him, but he said hurtful things to me. So I got a sweet roll from the nice old lady and tried to share it with him, but he wanted it all for himself. I obliged, because if your god asked you for your sweet roll, you damn well give it to him. I was brought into the dungeons for my insubordination, and was made to kill a rad roach with a BB gun. Not gonna talk too much about killing it with a BB gun and not a switchblade. If I couldn't kill the roach with the BB gun, this and many other one type of weapon run challenges would never work, so screw it, right? I was once again teleported to the future to take an exam I didn't study for. I wonder if question 10 is the overseer. Anyway, I said goodbye to Dad for quite some time, and I made my way to class. My Lord and Savior was in the hall harassing Amata, and I told him to call her fat so he wouldn't smite me with his powerful switchblade. Mr. Teacher said I didn't have to take the test, and I picked melee weapons, speech, and lockpicking as my tag skills, and then I grew up for the last time. Yada yada yada, Dad left the vault, Jonas is dead, where's Butch, I gotta steal his switchblade. I quickly avoided too much conflict, and once again found my Messiah. He said his mother was in trouble, and asked for my help. I told him to smite down the roaches with his mighty power, and he listened. He thanked me with his jacket, and I proceeded to steal his switchblade. Now that I was fully loaded and ready to go, I had to test my switchblade out. It honestly wasn't as bad as I thought, but I assumed it would only get worse from here. The rest of the vault was a cakewalk, killing guards and roaches alike, all in the name of Butch. When I eventually made it to the vault or to leave, these two guards came out to fight me. The game then proceeded to crash, and this would be the start of something wonderful. Fallout 3 has never really been a stable game, but I'd usually be able to play for a few hours without a crash. For this playthrough though, there were times when it would crash 5 minutes after loading it, so I had to deal with that the whole game. I left the vault, leveled up, and I immediately went to Silver's house to convince her to give me some caps so I had something to work with. I did the same thing to Lucas Sims inside of Megaton, and disarmed the bomb for a solid 500 caps. I proceeded to Moira's shop to buy some stims and chems, and to start the Wasteland Survival Quest for some easy experience right off the bat. I started to make my way to the Super Duper Mart, and when I arrived I was greeted by a robot salesman that I chose to ignore. On the inside, I started to loot the place, specifically looting the metal crates because there was a chance for switchblades to spawn inside of them, and I needed extra switchblades badly. See, while the switchblade itself isn't the worst weapon ever, it breaks quite easily, and the switchblade, believe it or not, doesn't spawn that often. So if my switchblade were to break in a fight, I'm kinda screwed. The raiders didn't put up much of a challenge, and I actually took everything from their corpses for once. I needed the caps for stim packs, otherwise this challenge would have sucked a lot more than it did. Also, because there's a chance for raiders to have switchblades on them too. After I cleared the store, I returned to Megaton to get my concussion healed by Doc Church and to buy stims. I returned to Moira and stopped doing quests for her as there wasn't too much of a reason to continue to. Now I was on a mission to find my dad, and the first place to go was to Moriarty's saloon. But believe it or not, he was outside and ready to tell me where my Liam Neeson was for the exchange of 100 caps, and for some reason, I actually gave him the money and I still don't know why I did. But he told me that my dad went to Galaxy News Radio, so that's where I was heading to. To actually get to GNR, I had to go through some old metro tunnels in the heart of the downtown DC hellhole. But with my switchblade at the ready, and my pocket carrying my book of psalms dedicated to Butch, I felt I could accomplish anything. The way to the metro was dull, with almost nothing to kill, but when I actually made it into the metro, it was a different story. The metro was full of two kinds of enemies, mole rats and ghouls, neither of which put up too much of a fight, though the ghouls did do decent damage. I was able to descend deeper into the metro and experience the true first problem of the run. My switchblade broke. Now, completely defenseless, I had to run past ghouls and a super mutant and escape to the surface again. Once I was up top, I quickly traveled back to Moira and repaired my switchblade, and decided it was time for a hunt. I needed more switchblades, and I was going to have them, damn it. I had heard from the interwebs that a switchblade could be found in Billy Creel's house in a suitcase by his bed. It was a lie, and Butch shall surely smite the wrongdoers when he finds out. The next location to go to was actually the one I had to go to for the story to continue. There were tales of the desks in the old schoolhouse containing switchblades and beer, but that was also a lie. There were also only 2 desks anyway. With a heavy heart, I went to the entrance to GNR and was attacked by a super mutant behemoth. Now, I really tried to actually kill this thing with a switchblade, but he could almost one-shot me after I took Med-X and buff out. This didn't stop me from trying though, and I was even able to block a few of his hits. It still did a lot of damage, and I was eventually killed. I decided that I would just let the Brotherhood take care of things, and that actually took pretty long too. But they eventually got it, and even thanked me for being such a help. With the way to GNR secure, I was allowed to speak to 3Dog. He knew where Dad was, but was only willing to tell me if I helped him. I considered just save scumming my way to a successful speech check, but decided that doing the quest would actually be a good thing. I agreed to go and fetch his new satellite dish, and left for Megaton to buy more stim packs, and to see if Moira had a switchblade. She didn't. I still direly needed some more switchblades, so I decided to check out the Springvale schoolhouse because I knew there was one stuck in a desk on the upper levels. The raiders were once again no match for my switchblade, and were easily dispatched, and after about 20 minutes, I got to my goal, only for the game to crash. I reloaded and prayed to Butch that I would just make it through and get the switchblade. I did, and left hastily to get it repaired. Now it was really time to head to the Museum of Technology. On the way there, I fought raiders, and more raiders. I stopped at Rivet City, not only to discover it for later, but to see if Flack had any switchblades. He didn't have any. I also bought chems from this crazy lady, and finally made my way to the metro tunnels. The metro tunnels were once again full of raiders, and the game crashed again. I reloaded, and just tried to get out of the tunnels as fast as I could. Once outside, I was greeted by the most challenging enemies in the run, super mutants. They move fast, do a lot of damage, and they can take a lot of damage too. Especially the super mutant masters. Oops, another crash! I reloaded and turned on my DLC packs, which were not enabled prior to this for some reason, and proceeded to kill every single super mutant in this portion of the map. It took some time, but I was proud when I was done. I finally entered the Museum of Technology to get the dish. I read some terminals to uncover a secret stash that I never located, and I even found some awesome stealth boys. Those would have been so handy last time. Once the last mutant was dispatched, I made my way to the Washington Monument to install the dish, and returned to 3Dog for my information. He told me Dad went to Rivet City, which I had already been to, and then I never talked to him again. Once I arrived in Rivet City, I visited the doctor for some drugs, and talked to the snotty scientist lady to find out where Dad had gone. Apparently, my dad couldn't sit still for 5 goddamn seconds, as he had already passed through Rivet City and went to the Jefferson Memorial to work on Project Purity. Good thing I also discovered the memorial earlier, and fast traveled there post-haste. The inside was filled with more super mutants, because this was a time when Bethesda couldn't think of more than 2 enemies and really enjoyed big green men. In the rotunda, there was a super mutant brute that fell easily enough, but Dad was nowhere. Oh wait, yes he was. He went to another place! I now had to go to Smith Casey's garage to enter the vault that Dad had went to. More raiders were killed on the way, and I found a merchant to repair my switchblades. I took a detour to discover Tenpenny Tower, so I had another place to buy stimpaks, and proceeded to the garage. Once I had access to Vault 112, I entered the Tranquility Lounger and went to a better place. I'm not going to get into too much detail about my time here, as I just unleashed a horde of bloodthirsty commies to dispatch everyone except for Dad, me, and Dr. Braun. They must have known that Dad and I were communists in another life. We left, and I was finally able to talk to Dad. Do you have any idea what I had to go through to find you? You have the attention span of a goddamn 3-year-old. Ooh, what's over here? Ooh, what's over there? You're lucky I even found you in the first place. After my rant, Dad told me that we needed to go back to Rivet City and get Dr. Madison Lee to help at the Jefferson Memorial. See, Dad, this is what I mean. I told him that I couldn't go with him and fast traveled to Rivet City anyways. He met up with his doctor buddies and we all left for the memorial arm in arm. Once we arrived, my dad asked me, his own son, to kill the mutants inside. What a father figure. Since I had killed the super mutants up top, all I had to do was kill the ones in the lower section, which was easy enough considering they could just get stuck in the water, and somehow my switchblade had a long enough reach to kill them. Once I was done, I told Dad and we went inside, and he had more work for me to do. I had to go into the basement and turn on some pumps and replace some fuses. After this, I had to go into a pipe and clear up some clogging, and then the enclave attacked. I left the pipe, and I had my first interactions with the heavily armored enclave soldiers. They honestly weren't as bad as I thought they would be, but this was also a one-on-one fight. There would be times when I would have to fight 3 power armor-clad troopers with just a switchblade. Once I got back up top and into the rotunda, I witnessed my father get killed, and that was pretty crappy, not gonna lie. Madison Lee told me to go to the escape tunnel, and then made me protect her and her merry band of assholes from the enclave. This part kind of sucked, and that was mainly because Garza has the IQ of a chair. When we got to this part where Dr. Lee had to open the door, Garza just stood right in the line of fire for the enclave soldiers. I had to literally push him out of the way so he wouldn't die, and it worked. We were home free. All I had to do was kill these ghouls and the game crashed. You know what the funny thing is? I'm not even mentioning all the other times the game crashed. I reloaded the save and had to try to push Garza out of the way again, but it didn't work this time and he ran straight for the enclave soldiers. I killed the ones I could, and Dr. Lee got the door opened. For some reason, they all stopped following me after that, which had me a little worried, but it didn't matter in the long run because as soon as I stepped outside, everyone but Garza was there. What a waste of a freaking time that whole charade was. Dr. Lee shouted our way into the Citadel, and we were greeted by Old Man Lyons. He said that he could get someone to help me find the geck. So I wandered around aimlessly for a little while, and then got permission to trade with Durga so I could have some more stim packs. I finally got around to talking to Rothschild, and he told me to search for vaults that might have a geck on the Vault Tech terminal. I figured out that Vault 87 had one, and was going to make my way to Little Lamplight when I realized something. After Dad dies, you can get the quest to go back into Vault 101 and help the rebels get access to leave the vault. And if I did that quest, I could get Butch to be my follower. I could also snag his unique switchblade, Butch's toothpick. So, I left for Megaton to buy more stim packs and made my way to the vault. Once I was inside, I was greeted by Gomez, who I thought liked me, but apparently he was just a liar. My first goal was to find Butch and see how he was doing. It actually took way longer than expected, but I eventually found him in all of his leathery glory. He was mad at me because I ruined the vault, but it wouldn't matter after I was done with the quest. I found Amada, and she told me that I needed to talk to her father, and make him see that everyone should be able to leave the vault. The Overseer was actually pretty easy to convince, and he stepped down and let Amada rule over the vault. Her first decree was to kick my ass back to the curb like the pile of trash I am. I agreed to leave peaceably, if only for Butch's sake. Now I needed to go to Rivet City to get Butch to follow me. He was lounging around the bar, and since my karma was neutral, he agreed to follow me and spread the good word of Butch. I also had to get this great shot of 2 Butches looking pretty cool at the bar. We left the bar, and I took his switchblade, which was fine because he always had one anyways, and we fast traveled closer to Little Lamplight. We were greeted by some raiders that Butch and I expertly dispatched with our switchblades. Now's a good time to mention that for the most part, Butch also only used a switchblade, but sometimes he would still pick up a weapon and use it before I got the chance to take it back from him, which was fine by me. Pretty soon after the fight, we walked straight into a super mutant behemoth, and Butch died, which sucked, but I just reloaded the save and made sure not to go that way next time. The way to Little Lamplight was pretty tame, with only a few super mutants to worry about. Once we arrived, I save-scummed my way into the cave, and Butch and I went into Murder Pass. In a one-on-one battle, super mutants were pretty easy for us, but now's the portion of the game where a bunch of super mutant brutes start to spawn in, and they carry assault rifles, which makes it marginally harder to not get Butch killed. We cleared the caves in a pretty decent time, and we're finally ready to retrieve the geck, but I accidentally set off this trap and crippled Butch. He wouldn't heal himself, so I thought that maybe if I healed myself that he would too. So I went all the way back to the entrance to the Little Lamplight and fast traveled all the way to Megaton to see Doc Church, and asked him to heal me. It didn't work. Now I had to figure out how to heal Butch, so I went to the wiki, and it said that companions would auto-heal after they killed something and finished a fight. Ugh. I went all the way back to Little Lamplight, through Murder Pass, and entered Vault 87. Luckily, there were some rad roaches to test this out on, and it worked. After Butch killed it, he healed from his broken leg, and now we could proceed to find the geck. Butch and I brutally murdered the super mutant brutes, and eventually came upon Fox. He wanted me to free him, and said that if I did, he would get the geck for me, since it was in a highly radioactive place. Butch and I agreed, and we went to go switch on the fire alarm system, and freed Fox. He thanked us, and proceeded to make his way towards the geck. But something happened. Somewhere along the way, I used all of my switchblades to repair Butch's toothpick, and Butch's toothpick eventually broke. I thought little of it, since I could just let Butch and Fox take care of the rest of the enemies until we could leave, but then I remembered that right after this, I get kidnapped by the enclave, which means that I have to leave again and go repair my switchblade. It was time for another hunt. I went to Rivet City to see if Flack had a switchblade for sale. He didn't. I checked Tenpenny Tower. Nothing. I also checked with Moira. Nada. At least I could get Butch's toothpick repaired. I did have an idea though, and for it to work, we needed to go to Canterbury Commons. On the way to the Commons, we got held up at Bethesda Ruins because my switchblade kept breaking, and Butch was pretty freaking useless half the time. After a few failed attempts, I decided we would just ignore Bethesda Ruins and reroute a path. For some reason, we decided to stop at Springvale School again, which was a great decision. We found a lot of switchblades in the lockers, and got pretty stocked up on them. I still wanted to go to Canterbury Commons though. On our way there, we were attacked by a Yaogwai, which easily did the most damage of any common enemy we faced so far. We also attacked this armory, and I actually found a raider who was using a switchblade as a weapon. Thank you much. When we made it to the Commons, these two whack jobs were fighting. We just ignored them, and found Uncle Rose so we can invest some caps into Crazy Wolfgang, because he apparently gets a higher repair skill once you do. I waited outside of the Commons until Crazy Wolfgang spawned in and repaired my stuff. From there, I finally went back into Vault 87 for the last time. Fox retrieved the geck, and I was kidnapped by the Enclave. When I was awoken by Colonel Autumn, I felt like being a very rude man, and this made him unhappy. The President scolded him, and then I was set free by the President to see the President. I explored for a moment, knowing full well that the Colonel was going to set his goons to attack mode any second. When he did, I was pleasantly surprised that it was pretty easy to kill all these guys and make my way up to the President, even on very hard. An abomination of science is what he was, and I decided to make him blow up the base for the fun of it. After I left, I was greeted by Fox, who I let follow me for a moment because I didn't want to be rude, even though it was still pretty rude. I had to go back to Rivet City and reacquire Butch as a follower, and then we made our way to the Citadel for the final battle. When we arrived, I had to watch a cutscene where I couldn't move, so Butch and I put on a little dance show, and we were then told that we had to attack the Enclave at Project Purity with the help of a giant robot. When I was offered armor by Sarah Lyons, I took the recon armor and threw it on the ground because Butch don't need that crap. It was a slow march to the Purifier, as it always is, and along the way we barely killed anything so I could save the sanctity of my blade for Colonel Autumn. When we arrived in the memorial, we had to fight the Enclave soldiers within, and we did a pretty good job too, until the game crashed. We were so close, why the hell did that have to happen? We enter the memorial once again, and get through the fighting as fast as possible, and make our way to the rotunda. I told Colonel Autumn that I didn't want to fight, which was a lie, but he proceeded to try and kill me anyways. He met his maker by the blade of my knife, and we cleared the rest of the room. It was just Butch, Lyons, and I. I knew what had to happen next. Dr. Lee radioed us to say that a sacrifice must be made if the Purifier is to work. I said that I would be the one to do it, but I was surprised when Butch came into the Purifier with me. I took one last look at my Lord and Savior Butch, and pressed the last button. I fell to the floor, and died the way Butch would have wanted to, a part of the tunnel snakes, and I beat Fallout 3 as Butch DeLoria. I know this was kind of a weird challenge, but you should try it out sometime. It was actually quite fun, and I'd like to see how the DLC would play out if I tried it like this. So if that's something you'd like to eventually see, let me know in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, you should consider subscribing, as that would help me out immensely, and I plan on making more challenge videos in the future. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, check out my Fallout New Vegas challenge. It's pretty good. And until next time, stay safe out there, and peace out.